I chose to research hand-eye coordination for my Genius Hour project. I hope you enjoy. Today I will be talking about hand-eye coordination. To be more specific, I will be talking about why I picked hand-eye coordination, things that can help with it, basic facts about hand-eye coordination, and more. Fun facts about hand-eye coordination are almost always interesting, and I think you should hear about this one. Did you know that hand-eye coordination is the most important part of learning? In other words, you cannot learn without hand-eye coordination. Are you ready to hear why I picked the topic of hand-eye coordination? You might be wondering why I chose the topic of hand-eye coordination. Any guesses? When I began researching my topic on the website, Doggo News, I came across an article about hand-eye coordination. This intrigued me because it involves sports, which is my favorite pastime. When I began reading the article, I came across a paragraph that mentioned hand-eye coordination was like a sixth sense. So I kept on reading the article because it got more and more interesting. I learned that without hand-eye coordination, every ball that is thrown would be way off target. Hand-eye coordination can help with many other talents as well. Now that you know why I picked this topic, do you know what hand-eye coordination is? According to hickconsumption.com, hand-eye coordination is the ability to use our muscles and vision at the same time. It can help with many other skills as well, such as sports or even video games. Hand-eye coordination can result in many different ways. Hand-eye coordination is included in almost everyday things like writing and coloring. Did you know that you can be born with bad hand-eye coordination? And if you don't have great hand-eye coordination, it's not your fault. Now, did you know that broccoli is just as healthy for your eyes as carrots? There are many ways to show or to display hand-eye coordination. For instance, grabbing objects is a very simple yet effective way to exhibit hand-eye coordination. Another way to demonstrate hand-eye coordination is to play a bit of baseball or simply catching and throwing balls. Additional exercises to improve hand-eye coordination include juggling and, believe it or not, playing video games. If a person is more of an archer, target practice is effective as well. Basketball players can practice hand-eye coordination by dribbling a basketball. The strangest hand-eye coordination of them all is a balloon toss, or bouncing a balloon up in the air with your fist. There are many intriguing facts about hand-eye coordination. Did you know that without the required focus, hand-eye coordination is more difficult? For example, if the player does not focus on the hoop for a free shot, the ball will not go anywhere near the hoop, hence the name hand-eye coordination. If a person does not have basic motor skills, such as drawing a picture, then hand-eye coordination may be difficult. Did you know that in most cases, hand-eye coordination strengthens at ages 2 to 5 and weakens at ages 67 and over? There are many activities to improve hand-eye coordination, such as reading music while playing an instrument. There are many things that can improve hand-eye coordination. First of all, juggling balls is a great option to practice hand-eye coordination. However, if juggling is too difficult, then using a metronome to train eyes is a good alternative. Yoga and Pilates are also effective exercises to improve hand-eye coordination. According to GMB Fitness, paying very close attention to the surrounding activities is a very good way to improve hand-eye coordination. These activities are a few simple ways to develop better hand-eye coordination. My conclusion about hand-eye coordination is that you have to be intrigued with hand-eye coordination if you want to learn more about the topic, like I am. What hand-eye coordination really is the ability to use muscles and eyes at the same time. There are many examples of hand-eye coordination, as you can imagine. This is my trifold, and since we cannot meet in person, I thought I should tell you what is on it. There are fun facts on the left side. In the middle, there is what hand-eye coordination is, and examples of hand-eye coordination. On the right side, the activities I had planned for my table. Thanks for listening. This is hand-eye coordination in a nutshell. And if you have any questions about my topic, you can ask after my presentation is over. Thank you for being a good audience and listening to my slideshow. Are there any questions?
Great job, Ryan. Do we have any questions for our presenter tonight or this afternoon?
I have a question for Ryan.
Sure. I'm not sure who it is, but go for it.
Oh, this is Dave.
Ryan's dad.
I'm Ryan's dad.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Ryan, throughout your research, did you find anything surprising that you didn't think had required hand-eye coordination prior to doing your research?
Yes. So I didn't know that really like any like cornhole, for example. I didn't really think that involved hand-eye coordination, or like any toss games like that.
Thanks.
Neil.
So, what are certain restraints to, like, if you don't have good hand-eye coordination, what are certain restraints?
So you really cannot play sports because, say, like baseball, you can't really catch without hand-eye coordination. And you can't really write as well. Your handwriting wouldn't be that good. So those are two pretty big ones.
Okay.
So Ryan, what do you do to help yourself with your own hand-eye coordination in the sports that you play?
I practice a lot, like watching, like, say for baseball, I just watch the ball come into my glove. So that's like, you really have to watch the ball, and without hand-eye coordination, you couldn't really do that.
Thank
you.
you.
Might close it at the right time.
Thanks for sharing that. Do we have any other questions for Ryan? Well done, Ryan. Congratulations on completing your Genius Hour project, and thank you for sharing. Our next presenter this afternoon is Michael, and he is going to share with us what he has learned about some hockey injuries. So Michael, if you would like to share your screen and begin, that would be great.
Hi, my name's Michael, and today I'll be sharing my presentation about how hockey injuries affect the human body. Why I chose this topic. I was curious about hockey injuries could affect the human body. I'm sure they hurt, but how bad do they hurt? That's what inspired me and why I wanted to learn more about injuries in the sport of hockey. And as a hockey player, it's helpful for me to learn about this information so that I can prevent injuries to myself and others. Next. Table of contents. Hockey's my favorite sport. I play on a travel team called the Flames, and when playing in games, many players often get injured. Just last year, during one of my hockey games, one of my teammates was side-checked to the boards, which resulted in a concussion. My teammate could not play for 3 games. This is just one of the topics I will be talking about tonight. I hope you enjoy it. Next. Concussions. Have you ever experienced a concussion or know somebody who has? A concussion can damage your brain or weaken your fragile brain cells. Concussions can cause a person to forget things that happened earlier. For example, a person may not remember having an ice cream cone prior to suffering a head injury that resulted in a concussion. Other symptoms of this serious head injury include dizziness, severe headaches, nausea, and ringing in the ears, to name a few. In the sport of hockey, a player could be out for at least 3 or 4 games, depending on the severity of the injury. Believe it or not, concussions are the most common of all injuries in the NHL. Here is an interesting fact. Did you know that more than 40% of concussions in hockey involves illegal contact? Next. Bones. Many other hockey injuries aside from concussions include broken bones. The majority of bones heal correctly, but a broken bone is an injury that is truly painful. I personally think a flamingo's bone can break easily because of how skinny their legs are. However, is that the same for humans? It technically is, because the more somebody weighs, the more dense their bones are. And likewise, if a person weighs less, their bones are less dense. However, this may or may not be true for everybody, though, as everybody's bone strength is different. Broken bones must stay straight in order to heal straight. Therefore, using a cast is most important. Surgery is at times needed to help repair a broken bone, though. Next. Recovery times. Did you know between concussions and broken bones, hockey injury recovery times depending range on the severity of the injury itself? Although a concussion can last from 7 to 10 days, a more severe concussion can last for months. An injured player may experience concussive symptoms for many months. Believe it or not, a broken bone heals faster than any sprain. When a broken bone heals completely, a player tends to not have any issues from the injury. On average, broken bones can heal in just about 20 to 60 days. However, if surgery is required, the recovery time is far longer. Next. Possible ways to prevent injuries. For a player, hockey injuries are very frustrating. Players are unable to participate in a game of hockey until they are fully healed, although some have been known for playing through the injury. The best thing players can do to prevent hockey injuries is to warm up their bodies. By warming up, it gets a player and their bodies ready for the game. Therefore, chances of injury are decreased. A neck guard is the next best thing a player can have to prevent a life-threatening injury. The purpose of wearing a neck guard while playing is to protect the neck from any type of injury that could happen. If a player chooses not to wear a neck guard, the chances of becoming injured significantly increase. Next. Conclusion. To conclude my presentation, hockey injuries are prevalent in the sport. Concussions are the most common injury in the NHL. The recovery time from sustaining a concussion is about 7 to 10 days. Although concussions can cause a bit of memory loss, the upside is that a player is only out of the game for a week as opposed to over a month as it is with a broken bone. For most people, the recovery time for broken bones is on average 20 to 60 days. For most people, bone density is reliant on body weight. This was the most interesting fact that I learned from my research on this topic. To prevent further injury, a player should wear a neck guard, although this is not a requirement in the NHL. Youth hockey, however, does require this protective piece. Although I have been a hockey player for 5 years, I have been lucky enough to not sustain any of these injuries that I have discussed today. Next. Thank you all for listening to my presentation. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Michael, for presenting. Do we have anybody who would like to ask Michael a question about his project on hockey injuries? Yes, Ryan.
So I was just wondering, which do you think is worse, a broken bone or a concussion?
Probably a broken bone. I haven't had either, so I can't judge it by my personal experience at all, but I'd say broken bone.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Dutton.
Great job, Michael. I just have a question looking at concussions. There's certainly a greater understanding and awareness of concussions. you shared some great ways in the sense of how to prevent injuries. Any ways, or what are some ways to help prevent concussions?
It's probably if you play sports, it's kind of hard to dodge concussions, depending on what sport you play. If you don't play sports at all, the chances of concussion is decreased. Yeah.
What type of gear do you use, Michael, to help prevent the concussion?
Mouth guards help a lot.
I'm sorry, what?
Mouth guards help a lot.
And how do mouth guards help?
They help helmet helps too. Mouth guard protects your teeth, because sometimes you can get a concussion and lose a few teeth from it. So.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions for Michael? Okay, Michael, thank you for sharing. Great job, bud. Our next presenter is Miss Addison, and she is going to share with us some chemical reactions. Over to you, Addison. You can start sharing your screen now.
Hi, my name is Addison. For my Genius Hour, I choose to learn about chemical reactions. I hope you have a good memory, because you're going to need it. I have a lot to tell you, so enjoy my presentation. As you can see, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to chemical reactions. These are just some of the topics I will cover tonight. The topic I find most interesting is bioluminescence. I find bioluminescence interesting because I am fascinated by the way bugs and animals can light up without electricity. Now, are you wondering why I chose to research chemical reactions? I chose this topic because I like mixing chemicals together to create a chemical reaction. In addition to that, I enjoy figuring out how different chemicals react with each other. Chemical reactions are a part of chemistry, which is why I love chemistry so much. But I ask, do you know what chemical reactions are? Chemical reactions form when two or more molecules come together and change. On the Khan Academy website, it states substances that go together in a chemical reaction are called reactants. Equations must be balanced to reflect the law of conservation of matter. Have you heard of the word bioluminescence? Did you know bioluminescence is a chemical reaction? Bioluminescence is light inside of an animal or bug's body. For example, a jellyfish's ink contains a chemical called luciferin. When it is exposed to oxygen, it reacts and creates light. The ink inside of an octopus's body is made of metalin, which is the pigment that darkens our skin. There is also hydrogen in the ink, which is a substance that irritates predators' eyes and disrupts their sense of smell. Many chemical reactions are not alike. For example, bioluminescence has nothing in common with the next slide about combustion. Combustion reactions almost always involve molecular oxygen. The word combustion means the process of burning something. NASA states that fuel, oxygen, and heat are what is needed for combustion to occur. It is a fuel source combined with oxygen under intense heat that creates the combustion. Anytime anything burns, it is a combustion reaction. Combustion reactions are always exothermic, which means they give off heat. When organic molecules catch on fire, the reaction's product are combustion, carbonated carbon dioxide, and water. Combustion requires combining three components for it to occur. So it is very similar to the next reaction I will introduce to you, which is a combination chemical reaction. Also known as synthesis reaction, a combination chemical reaction is when two or more elements or reactions combine to form a product. Combination means joining or coming together. Combination reactions may be represented by X plus Y, which then turns into XY. The opposite of a combination chemical reaction is a decomposition chemical reaction. Are you familiar with decomposition? Decomposition reaction occurs when one element breaks down into two or more products. Decomposition means to break down and can be represented by AB turning into A plus B, such as when water decomposes into oxygen and hydrogen. On the other hand, single displacement is also a chemical reaction. Single displacement reaction is a type of chemical reaction where an element reacts with a compound and takes the place of another element in that compound. The Statue of Liberty is a familiar example of a single displacement reaction between the outer layers of copper and the inner layers of iron. With single displacement chemical reactions come double displacement chemical reactions. A double displacement reaction is a type of chemical reaction where two or more compounds react. The positive ions and the negative ions of the two reactions switch places, forming two new compounds or products. The easiest way to identify the double displacement reaction is to check to see whether or not the cations exchange ions with each other, stated Thotko. Did you know reversibility and equilibrium also form a chemical reaction? Are you familiar with the melting popsicle? Well, that is an example of a reversible reaction. Chemicals that run both forward and backward are called reversible reactions. In fact, both the forward reaction and its opposite will take place at the same time. This back and forth stays until a certain relative balance between reactants and products is reached. This is a state called equilibrium or equal balance. On the other hand, chemicals that run in one direction are called irreversible reactions. They are called this because the reactants run until they are used up. Two experiments to do at home are elephant toothpaste and vinegar and baking soda. For elephant toothpaste, all the materials that you will need to gather are hydrogen peroxide, dish soap, and food coloring. For the vinegar and baking soda, all you will need is vinegar and baking soda. To make a rubber egg, you will need 1 egg, vinegar, and patience. Come to my table to test out these experiments. What types of chemical reactions are the experiments? The rubber egg, vinegar, and baking soda, and elephant toothpaste are all examples of combustion chemical reactions that give off heat. When a chemical reaction gives off heat, it is called an exothermic reaction. Baking soda and vinegar have two reactions. The first reaction is an acid-base reaction. Two new chemicals are created, carbon acid and sodium acetate. The second reaction is a decomposition reaction. The carbon acid from the first reaction decomposes into water and carbon gas. My experts. Why did you choose to teach science or chemistry? Mrs. Larson double majored in animal science and occupational education. After college, she decided to research at a hospital in Boston. She found a very lonely job and knew at that point she wanted to teach and work with others to share her knowledge. Mrs. Larson got a grant to start a biomedical program at the Londonderry High School. Students can learn microbiology and biomedical science and technology in the high school. Because of this, Mrs. Larson at the Londonderry High School has more equipment than some colleges. Mrs. Larson, could you make edible things bioluminescent? What chemical reactions could you use to make food bioluminescent? And could you make a bioluminescent pickle? You could, but why would you? Changing organisms should be for the benefit of humans and other organisms and should not be done for aesthetic purposes. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Mrs. Fraser, why do some chemicals react with each other and some do not? The simplest answer to this is to become more stable. Although there are several forces that drive chemical reactions, most reactions occur because what you produce, the products, are more stable than what you start with, the reactants. Mrs. Fraser, what is your favorite chemical reaction and why? Mrs. Fraser doesn't really have a chemical reaction. However, she always uses the synthesis of sodium chloride. 2Na plus Cl2 gives you 2NaCl, balanced, or Na plus Cl2 gives you NaCl, unbalanced. You start a highly related metal and a toxic gas that you create a seasoning that you can put in your food, also known as salt. Why did you choose to teach science or chemistry? Mrs. Fraser always liked chemistry, and she could not imagine teaching anything else. In conclusion, chemical reactions form when two or more molecules come together and change. There are many different forms of chemical reactions. The most common chemical reaction for children are combustion reactions. My favorite chemical reaction is bioluminescence because it amazes me that things in nature can grow without electricity. I hope you learned something during this presentation. This is my poster board. I would have had this at my table. Everything that is on this was in my presentation. This video will show a decomposition chemical reaction. The experiment that I will be showing you is called elephant toothpaste. They call it elephant toothpaste because it foams like an elephant's trunk. This happens because the hydrogen peroxide in the dish soap react with the yeast. As you can see, I had a lot of resources, including Bitmoji and Khan Academy. If you'd like to learn more, check out some of these websites I used. Thank you for listening. I also made these molecules from a set. This is carbon dioxide. And then this is banana flavoring. Is there any questions?
Great job, Addison. Do we have any questions for Addison? I think she's a chemical expert now. Questions?
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I don't have a question, but I have more of a comment. I am super impressed because I didn't learn about that stuff till I was in high school.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just thought I'd share. I'm super impressed by that.
Addison, you did a great job. And I know that you began this journey by just wanting to do bioluminescence. So what truly inspired you to delve into more chemical reactions?
I decided to do more chemical reactions because I didn't think there was enough on bioluminescence that I could do a whole project on it. So I think I'd go bigger and do all chemical reactions so I could have each slide a different chemical reaction.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions for Addison? I do have one more. Do you want to be a chemist or a chemical engineer when you get older? Do you have any interest in that?
I haven't thought of that yet, but I think I want to be an electrical engineer, so it involves some of that.
It does involve some of that, absolutely, especially the combustion. Do we have any more questions for Addison? Okay, Addison, thank you for sharing. You did a great job. Excellent work. Our next presenter is Eli, but before we begin, I want to make sure, Mrs. Thompson, I believe Michael is trying to enter the meeting again. He was bumped out and needs to be admitted again.
I did that. Thank you. I didn't see that.
Perfect. Thank you. Our next presenter is Eli, and Eli is going to share with us some football safety tips. So over to you, Eli. Go ahead and start sharing your screen, bud.
Hi, my name is Eli Betancourt, and today I'll be talking about the safety of football and the gear to prevent the horrible injuries it could cause. Have you ever been concerned about the injuries? I have, so let's begin my presentation. These are the areas I will be covering today in my Genius Hour presentation. I hope you enjoy it. Did you know players wear pants with pads to protect their hips, thighs, knees, and tailbone? I chose this topic because I love to play football and I think I know a lot about it. I think it needs to be a lot safer though. In my opinion, we need more protection to prevent injuries such as concussions. I'm really looking forward to learning more about the safety of football through this Genius Hour project, so let's get started. Helmet safety. Helmet safety is really important in the sport of football. Not only do helmets prevent concussions, they also help prevent other serious injuries as well. Without the use of helmets, football would be a very, very dangerous sport. Right now, football helmets cannot completely prevent concussions from happening, but the helmets can protect a player's head from serious brain or head injuries, such as chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, a degenerative brain disease found in athletes, military veterans, and history with repetitive brain trauma. Back when the sport of football began, a player's helmet was made of moleskin. That must not be very safe. A football helmet mostly consists of an outer shell called polycarbonate. It's a lightweight and still protects your head from huge impacts. Also, it has several inner layer padding, face masks in the front, and a chin strap. Oh, okay. Not only are helmets important in football, but mouth guards are as well, and they are far more important than one may think. They have many reasons for being safe. One reason is that it protects your teeth from impacts. Did you know that about 3 million teeth have been knocked out in sports every year? I think that's amazing. Another good fact is that if you get a concussion, your mouth guard can reduce the severity of the injury. I thought that was pretty cool. Did you know that if you have your mouth guard out during a game, it's a penalty? Now let's go to shoulder pad safety. Shoulder pad safety. Shoulder pads also have an important role in football safety. Shoulder pads decrease the chance of getting hurt in collisions with your upper back and upper chest. It also can decrease the chance of getting a shoulder injury. I still get shoulder injuries, but they wouldn't hurt as much if we didn't have shoulder pads. Shoulder pads consist of a hard plastic shell with foam underneath. Next, we're going to turf versus grass. Do you think grass is safer than turf? It is in some ways and it is in others. It isn't in others. Some studies have shown that more ACL injuries have happened on turf fields than grass fields. A study covering over 2,600 NFL games, players were 67% more likely to sprain their ACL on turf than grass. I prefer playing on grass field over turf field because it hurts more when I get tackled. Do you know what can affect you when you play? The weather effects. If you guessed the weather, then you are correct. According to an article, weather is a very important part in football safety. If a lightning strike is about 15 miles away, the officials or the referee gets notified. the strike is 10 miles away, the game or practice is canceled and they're told to seek shelter. If it is so cold that you can't even imagine, text says, sitting out is not an option. A game known as the Ice Bowl had temperatures at minus 13 degrees and a wind chill of nearly 50 degrees below zero. So to wrap it all up, mouth guards are super important to make concussions less severe and to protect your teeth from tough impacts. Most times, helmet injuries prevent concussions or head injuries. Shoulder pads help prevent injuries from the upper back to the upper chest. Studies have shown that grass is safer than turf because more ACL injuries have happened on turf. Weather is also a big factor in the game of football, and it could change the way a team plays in a game. Although shoulder pads are bulky and uncomfortable to wear, and mouth guards never want to stay in your mouth, it's all part of safety. Remember to keep it safe. Hope you enjoy my presentation. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
You can go ahead and stop sharing your screen, Eli. There you go. Nice job, bud. Do we have any questions for Eli on football safety? Where did you go on my screen, Eli? Oh, there you are. Any questions? Ryan?
Which prevents concussions like better, mouth guards or helmets?
Mouth guards do help, but I think helmets do more, because like the helmets are, the material they're made out of is stronger than the mouth guards. Just help it more, but the helmets are made out of a stronger material, which helps it more, basically.
Thank you.
Addison?
Have you ever gotten injured in football?
Not severely like a concussion, but I have little injuries. Sam?
Why did you play football instead of any other sport?
Because I like to watch it and it looked fun, so I decided to try, and I got really good at it, and it was fun. Neil?
Do you think or know that there's going to be any concussion-proof helmet in the future?
There might be, but like right now, there's no concussion-proof helmet.
Eli, I know you've been playing football for a while. Have there been any changes in the way you play or the way you practice, like in the rules, to help you be safer?
When I've been playing, there hasn't been changes in rules, but like there's like rules where you can't like hold their face mask and pull them down. Like no pushing from behind, like stuff like that. Anyone else?
Hi, Eli. Do your pads have a shelf life? Meaning, after so many hits, do you have to get new equipment?
Like, what do you mean by that? If you get hit?
Like, I know a lot of sports equipment, if you use them for 5 or 6 games, you have to get a whole new set of equipment because it damages the integrity of the pads. Does that happen with your sport?
That doesn't happen with me, though.
That's great. Saves mom money.
Eli, what is your favorite position to play in football?
I play cornerback and tight end.
And why do you like those positions?
Because I like tight end because I can like run for a pass, and I like cornerback because like corner, not quarter. I like cornerback because like I like to defend the wide receiver.
Thank you for sharing that. Do we have any other questions for our presenter, Eli? Thank you very much, Eli. You did a great job. Congratulations on completing your Genius Hour project. Excellent work. And last but not least, we have Sam, who is going to talk to us a little bit about some survival skills. Over to you, Sam. Go ahead and share your screen.
Hello, my name is Sam. My project I am presenting to you this afternoon is about survival skills in the great outdoors.
Sam, I'm just going to interrupt you for a quick minute because we are able to see your speaker notes.
Okay, well.
So when you share your screen, just remember to open up the window that has your slideshow.
Okay,
so you'll have to unshare first and then reshare. And then select the screen. Okay, now try it.
Can you see them?
We cannot see them. You're good to go. Why don't you go ahead and start again, bud?
Hello, my name is Sam. My project I am presenting to you this afternoon is about survival skills in the great outdoors. Would you know how to survive in the wilderness if you were lost? Mother Nature's wilderness has many dark secrets, and if you were lost in it, the situation would be serious. Today, I'll share with you how to survive in the wilderness if you ever get lost. Why I picked this topic. I picked this topic because I love the outdoors myself. Everyone in my family loves the great outdoors as well, which is why I like it so much. The outdoors can be very fun, which is why I enjoy it. However, the great outdoors has dangers as well. Basic hiking supplies and survival gear. Here's a list of some basic gear a person hiking should carry in case of an emergency. It is very important to have these items because they are the necessities for surviving in the wilderness. Some of these items are far more important than others, though. According to lifehacker.com, the most important items to carry while hiking are water, food, rope, and a first aid kit. In my opinion, matches would be just as important to pack because they are a versatile tool that can help to provide warmth, prepare food, as well as provide a signal for search and rescue teams. Do you know the most important thing that should be done immediately if you were lost in the woods? What to do if you are lost in the wilderness. This is by far the most important information in this presentation. The number one thing people need to remember if they get lost is to stay in one place. By staying in the same place, it makes the search and rescue easier to locate somebody who is lost. The only exception to this would be if the location is unsafe due to harsh conditions. These harsh conditions include, but are not limited to, rough terrain or natural predators. The next steps when lost in the wilderness are to find shelter, then create a fire, locate a water source, and lastly find food. Shelter, materials needed for basic teepee or lean-to. Pictured here is an example for what a shelter needs and what it should look like. A shelter should have pieces of wood of varying sizes to protect people from weather conditions and predators. A shelter is also an important piece of survival because it helps to keep people warm and out of the cold. How to make a fire. So you ever try to start a fire without matches? In a perfect world, matches would be easiest to get a fire started. However, if a person is lost in the wilderness, they'd most likely not have these. Fortunately, there are some different ways to start a fire without using matches. One way is to use the reflection of the sun with eyeglasses. This should not be too hard because all you have to do is get the sun to reflect off of your glasses. Another way to start a fire is to use sticks and pine needles. For this, all you need to do is wrap the sticks with pine needles. Get it hot enough and it will start to burn. How to find food. One of the most challenging things to do if you are lost in the middle of the wilderness is finding food. If you find yourself lost in the mountains of New England, an acorn is a great food option as it is completely edible. Although it may not taste good, it is a safe food source. Some other things that are able to be eaten are pine and grass. It is best to stay away from berries because more likely than not, they are poisonous. Finding water can possibly be just as challenging as finding food. But if water is found, it needs to be a fast-moving stream of water to be safe. However, it isn't the water would need to be filtered. A way to do this by actually sucking the water through a t-shirt. Why would this be an important step? It's important because the fabric acts as a filter for the water by blocking any debris from being consumed. And believe it or not, grass and cattails are other sources too. because both are filled with water. Cody Sheehy. In 1986, 6-year-old Cody Sheehy was lost in the woods for 18 hours. Cody was playing in his backyard with his sister and then decided to play a game in the woods. When he felt he was lost, Cody began trying to find his way back home. Never do what Cody did. Cody walked all around the woods in his town. He ended up walking 12 to 15 miles and then was later found by one of the search parties. To this day, he still regrets walking around instead of staying where he was. Conclusion. Cody Sheehy's story is just one of many examples as to why staying in one place when lost is best. Building a shelter is important for survival in the wilderness because it protects a person from various predators and weather. However, aside from staying in one place, remaining positive about the situation is crucial because if a person gets down, they will not know what to do. They will be worried and very scared. Thank you for listening to my presentation on how to survive the wilderness. Hopefully you do not ever have to use them, but if you find yourself lost, remain positive and calm, stay in one place, and remember my presentation. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Sam?
Hi, I have a question for Sam.
Yes, Miss Mazzy.
Hi, Sam. Sorry I interrupted you there a little bit at the end. I had my
It's
finger
fine.
on the mute button on accident. What was the most difficult part of doing research for you in the learning through the research process for this project?
It was probably finding websites for surviving in the wilderness because you can probably Google half the things you need, but you can't do that. So finding websites was hard, or finding good websites with a lot of information. That was one of the hardest things.
Thanks, Sam.
Eli?
Have you ever got lost or in the woods?
I have never gotten lost in the woods, and I hope I don't.
And that fort you made was really good.
Huh?
The one in that picture?
Yes, that was me.
Yeah, that was good.
Thanks. Anyone else? I can't see everyone.
Sam, it's Mrs. Thompson. I'm embarrassed to admit that over the last 8 or 9 weeks, my family has been binge watching Northwood's Law. And the people who get rescued on that show have almost always done all the things that you say not to do. And you seem to be very good at teaching people. Have you ever thought of sharing your knowledge with people and helping them be safer in the outdoors?
Sort of, but I wasn't sure on it.
You should think about that.
Yeah. I think a great guide, a simplistic guide to be put together for a younger audience would be fabulous. You could put a little book together. Might want to think about that.
I thought about that in like last year.
Yeah.
When we still were in school and everything.
Right.
And then I decided not to do that, but I could if I wanted to.
You could. I think you would do really well with that.
Yep.
Neil.
If you were lost, would you be able to recognize what berries were poisonous and which ones weren't?
If you were really smart, you could, but I wouldn't eat them at all. Because more than not, they are poison. They are poisonous, not good for you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Mr. Dunn, did you have a question? I saw that hand. I saw your hand go up.
I did, but Neil asked it. You know, I think you did a great job. I learned a lot about survival tips and skills, and I look at if I saw a berry and I saw an acorn, I would go for the berry. So I learned a lot, and I was going to ask the same question as Neil: why keep away from berries?
Any other questions for Sam? Thank you, Sam. You did a great job presenting. You are officially finished with your Genius Hour project. And that concludes our second showcase of 4. So I really appreciate everybody joining us. You've made the students feel pretty special with their culminating project virtually. Although it would have been great at North School, as I said before, this is also a great setting for them to present as well. So thank you very much, and stay healthy, be well, and my 5th grade key kiddos, make sure you come back and visit me in the fall, please. Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Have a
everybody.
great afternoon.
Thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome.